Hello and welcome back to a new lecture on syntax. Now in our previous lectures you may recall that we assigned to the noun phrase or to a noun phrase like the big box of toys with a blue sticker the following structure. Before we start though, it is important to understand that there is one common mistake that we usually make. Once we get to the level of the terminal nodes or the non-branching nodes, we no longer need these lines that attach to the actual words. Therefore, those lines have to not be drawn. Now with that, let's take a look at our structure here. Our structure here shows that this adjective phrase is a constituent of the noun phrase. The prepositional phrase is a constituent of the noun phrase as well. So is the head noun and the determiner and this other prepositional phrase. This structure is what we call the flat structure, and you can see why. Because if you notice, the PP and the other prepositional phrase along with the noun and the adjective phrase and the determiner are pretty much on the same level because there's only one line extending to each and every one of them, as you can see here. So really they're all like the main parts of the maximal noun phrase. But there's a lot of evidence to point to the fact that this flat structure actually is not what we should be looking for. Our evidence comes from one of the constituency tests that we discussed in our previous lectures. In particular, there is the replacement test. One type of the replacement test is the one replacement, meaning that we replace a constituent with one, the word one. So if you recall, the main idea behind one replacement is that if you're able to replace something with the word one, that means that that something is a constituent. It functions together as one unit. So let's take this example here. I saw a monster with green eyes and Mary saw 1, 2. This one here refers to a monster with green eyes. Because we are able to replace a monster with green eyes, the word one, and still have a grammatical sentence, we know that this whole stretch, a monster with green eyes, is one constituent. So that's the basic idea behind one replacement. Now here's a sentence I want you to think about. Recall our structure here. The big box of toys with a blue sticker. Here's the sentence again. I bought the big box of toys with a blue sticker, not the small one. One here replaces what exactly? Well, we still have the, and we have small, which is just like big, another adjective phrase. What we're missing here from the rest of the sentence is this, box of toys with a blue sticker. So this shows us that box of toys with a blue sticker forms a constituent apart from big and the. Now let's look back to our tree. Does our tree here show us that box of toys with a blue sticker forms a constituent apart from big and the? Actually no. If we go up to the noun here and trace it, it stops right here. If we are going to take everything else, we're going to need to draw a box, let's say like this. But how can you take only this part and leave these two? Our tree, as you can see, does not show that box of toys with a blue sticker forms a constituent without big and the. So let's try to modify this tree a bit to show that box of toys with a blue sticker forms a constituent. And in this constituent, let's call it X, along with the adjective phrase big and the determiner. All these together form our noun phrase. So we know now that box of toys with a blue sticker forms a constituent, but how are we going to show this? Let's put in a new node here and call it X. Now it is X that is a immediate constituent of NP. X is now sister to the adjective phrase and the determiner, and the constituents of X is the noun, the head noun, the PP, and another PP. Now this structure looks a bit better because now we see that when we replaced all of this with 1, Really what we're doing is replacing this with the word 1. Now it's easy to target one node here and everything that's underneath it. But that's not all. Take the sentence, I bought a big box of toys with a blue sticker, not the small one with a green sticker. What does 1 replace here in this case? Well, we have the and small. We have something that's just like with a blue sticker, which is with a green sticker. So what are we missing? We're missing only box of toys. So 1 here replaces box of toys. 1 equals box of toys. That means box of toys is a constituent. It forms a constituent. It is one unit, one structure together. Now again, our original structure does not show this. So here's box of toys. Let's trace it up like so. This does not form a constituent in the tree that we have here. There's still these two and these. All of these are parts of the tree. We could easily take, for example, this N to be here. I mean, why wouldn't it be there? We could take this PP to be here. What would stop us from doing that? Great, so now back to this sentence here. We want box of toys to form a constituent. So here's where we're at so far in our structure. Apparently, even with this intermediate X node here, that's still not enough, because X here has as its constituents box and of toys and with a blue sticker. As you can see here, the noun, the PP, and the other PP. We want an X that only takes PP and N. In other words, only box of toys. How are we going to get that? Maybe we need another X here to place in between. Let's see how that will look. Alright, how about this way? Now we have two X's. Let's call the first one X1 and the second one X2. Now if you see, we can form a constituent out of box of toys alone, and then a bigger constituent out of box of toys with a blue sticker, like so. How are we able to do that? Well, because box of toys forms a constituent which is called X2. Box of toys with a blue sticker forms a larger constituent which is called X1. Now notice then, X1 is made up out of X2 and the PP. These are the immediate constituents of X1. Then X2 divides up into the PP of toys and the head N, which is box. Now it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Now we know why box of toys can be replaced with 1, because they form a constituent. Another piece of evidence that our flat structure that we've been assuming so far is not the right way to go comes from coordination and conjunction. So the idea behind coordination and conjunction is that it shows us that two constituents are of the same type. So for example, if I say John bought eggs and a bag of chips, I know that a bag of chips and eggs have to be of the same type because they are coordinated together. So if eggs is a noun phrase, a bag of chips must also be a noun phrase. Now what does that show us exactly? Well, again, it shows us that our flat structure isn't really the way to go. Take for example the noun phrase, the Knight of Glamour and Prince of the Kingdom. We could easily have a sentence where we say, he is the Knight of Glamour and Prince of the Kingdom. Now let's see here. What exactly are we coordinating together? Prince of the Kingdom is coordinated with Knight of Glamour. So this determiner, the, is kind of like a determiner for both of these. So what we're really trying to say is that he is the Knight of Glamour and the Prince of the Kingdom. So then again, we were able to coordinate Knight of Glamour and Prince of the Kingdom. That means that they are constituents of the same type. But what type is that? Let's look back up here and see. Is there a specific type for Knight of Glamour? All we see in this flat structure is this NP, but then if we take this NP, we have to include this as well. So there's nothing that shows us that Knight of Glamour is a constituent by itself. The same goes for Prince of the Kingdom. Since we're able to coordinate these two, that means they are constituents of the same type, and now we're asking, what is that constituent? How do these form a unit? It looks to us here that they do not form a unit. Well, then perhaps again there must be some intermediate structure in between. Perhaps our noun phrase should look something like this. An NP with a determiner and let's just say an X for now. And then this X would give rise to our noun, which was Knight, and the PP of Glamour. The next NP would look the same. Now it looks very easy to understand how we can coordinate these two together. As you can see now, we could say that the Knight of Glamour and Prince of the Kingdom. Now we have two constituents that look exactly the same. They are of the same type. Again, though, here we still don't know what this type is. For now, we've been calling it an X. Here's another example. I want the blue box and red gloves. What are we coordinating here? Blue box and red gloves. To get that, we need a structure like so. We want the determiner the to be separate, and we want blue box and red gloves to be coordinated because we want them to be of the same type. Again, here we're calling them X for now. We still don't know what these X's are. But the point of the matter is so far that we've seen more than 3 examples that show us that our flat structure NP, like this one, is not the way to go. Now going back to this one, we called this unknown node an X. It would make sense to call it something in between N and NP. Recall, N is the head of this phrase. NP is what we call a maximal projection. The idea here is that this N projects upwards its features, and that's why we call the phrase a noun phrase instead of a determiner phrase or a prepositional phrase in this case. So then it makes sense for this noun to also project upwards to this intermediate stage. So why don't we call this, instead of X, we can just call it N, but then to distinguish this level of N from this level of N, let's give it a bar. So we call this N bar. And with that, we will have seen some good evidence against the flat structure and for what we'll call X bar theory. This is going to be our topic for the next lecture. And this, as we will see, is more on the right path to drawing correct trees. And now we see why it's called X bar. And that's because there's a bar structure or an intermediate structure. And it's X because for now we still don't know what to call it. See you in the next lecture.